the politically incorrect way to stop the wrestler or the grappler or the judoka or the BJJ person or whatever you want to call it. The person that likes to fight up close. There's 2, maybe 3 ways that are politically incorrect to learn how to fight against the grappler. The first one, the one I know a lot of people really aren't going to like, is the most obvious. And that is that you need to take grappling yourself. You need to get some time in wrestling or doing some judo or BJJ or something. How else are you going to really learn how to defeat something if you don't study it? Now, it may not be necessary for you to get a black belt in it, but I do think you need to spend some time studying it. If we have to give it a minimum time at rank, if you're just thinking about basic self-defense, I'd say to whatever their green belt or advanced beginner thing is. If we're talking about some minimum martial competence, I would say get to about the Sankyu level or like advanced intermediate rank. Now, we're talking about being able to function in a cage. Even though Holly Holmes knocked the crap out of Ronda Rousey, and this is what I tell my son, who I think could go pro right now, even though I don't consider myself as training people for cage matches. If you're one of my students, I'll tell you, I don't think you're cage ready, even if you could probably beat up some of these cage fighters for real, because if you're going to compete in that avenue, you need to have experience and be appropriate for that sport. And I know a lot of people aren't going to believe me when I say this, but that means that they're probably, not that I can beat any professional fighter, they're probably professional fighters I could quote unquote beat up in a real fight. But if I went in their element, I'm going to get destroyed because that's not my thing. So if you want to beat like a grappler in the ring, you should at least get a black belt. You should at least get a black belt in whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, go beyond BJJ purple belt. I would, if I was going to compete MMA, even though, and you can say I'm delusional, who knows, I could be. Even though, well, I have a black belt in judo, so I would still, even though I got a black belt in judo, I would still want to go to an actual gym that would specialize in cage fighting for at least 6 months, if not a year, if I was going to say, I'm going to be a cage fighter. But if they put a gun to my head and threw me in a cage, I'm sure I could survive. I'm sure I could beat a couple of them. So, back to my point. For the first way to defeat a grappler is take some grappling. I would tell a grappler, if they really wanted to learn how to quote unquote defeat a striker, take some striking. You're going to have to. That's why people study their enemies that they want to defeat. They learn how they think. And that way, they can learn to defeat them. This is basic warfare. All right. The second politically incorrect way to beat a grappler, this is in terms of a real fight, is you should be trying to maim, or dare I say, kill them. That sounds very harsh, but this is something I want you to think about. I don't know if you know it or not. I used to be in this online group where it was martial arts talking to law enforcement, and there were a lot of people that were both, of course. But if a civilian tackles a cop, and there was a video a few years ago where somebody's tried to ground and pound a cop. If a civilian can tackle a cop and a cop can shoot you for trying to take them to the ground because that's considered deadly force, then I think if somebody is trying to take you to the ground in a real fight, it's time for those foul tactics. It's time for those eye gouges and for those strikes to the structural weak points of the body. Now I know, what is his name? Oh, Bash Rutten. And I like Bash Rutten too. Bash Rutten has this thing where one of his videos is talking about probably delusional kung fu people. As I think it is. It's like, well, if they give me if I get them in a rear naked choke, they try to poke on my eye, I'm going to break their neck. But see, that's the thing. If it's a real fight, you should not be trying to let somebody get that close to you so that they can snap your neck if you poke them in the eye. If we're talking about a real fight, and somebody is coming after you, and you think they're trying to choke you or pick you up and slam you on the ground or get on top of you, start grounding and pounding, it is time for you to claw their eyes out, to bite them, and I'm not going to name the points. You can find them if you Google. To go after the weak points on the body. Now, I'm not even talking about pressure points. I'm talking about the weak points on the body. It is time for that, because they can kill you. And I'm not saying that because grappling is so lethal. If somebody gets you on the ground and get on top of you, if you're not used to fighting like that, you're going to be done. So those are two politically incorrect ways to defeat the grappler. And I hinted at a third way, but I think I pretty much covered it. Well, a third way, I'll say it's a third way, is to implement your pressure point type of things at the head. And that's all I'm going to say. So basically, you don't have time to play around with the grappler. And we're talking about a real fight. Now, if you're talking about some kind of ego-based fight, where you're like, I want to make sure that my Taekwondo can stand up to their thing or whatever. Oh, yes, this could be a third way. You must not grapple with them. You need to keep the fight to where you are strongest. And this is something I learned in one of the few real fights that I was in. Because I was getting royally beaten bad. Then I jumped back. I said, you know what? I'm not going to mix it up with this guy. I just started throwing the kicks I knew. And I really hurt him pretty bad because he didn't even come to school the next day. He said his chest was killing him. And that's another story for another day. But I went back and I Taekwondo. Now I know more, and I would handle things differently now. I wouldn't even fight anybody now. I would use self-defense. I wouldn't fight you. I'm not about fighting. Now I'm about avoidance, simple self-defense, so that nobody gets hurt if possible. So, don't grapple with them. If you are a kicker, you should be using your kicks from kick range. Because they have to get at you, you should be using your kicks at kick range and not leaving the kick out there so they could grab it. If you are a striker, then you should be using your distancing and your footwork to keep them from getting their hands on you, because they have to get their hands on you. Some of this stuff where you see people doing this, using or these people are falling for double leg takedowns and stuff like that, or even single leg takedowns, it is because they allowed the grappler to get too close to them. Because look, even me, I get taken down in a double leg if I'm grappling with somebody. They can get me in a double leg because I'm too close. But I got to be close if I'm going to grapple back. Stop trying to beat people at the thing that they're good at. And see that, and everybody likes to rag on Taekwondo, and I'm going to wrap this video up pretty soon. Everybody likes to rag on Taekwondo, right? Oh, it sucks. Oh, those flickety kicks. And then they get beat up by a Taekwondo practitioner. That's because you like to stay out there where they can kick you and where they're comfortable. And if they're good at not letting you come inside, you're going to be done. It's just the same way people get beat up by boxers. And then it's just the same way that people get beat up by grapplers because they're too stupid to realize that I should not be where this person is comfortable. I need to be where I'm comfortable. So, and after having said all that, I'm still going to put a link in below to a video I saw that I think is great, because the video goes over sprawling and it goes over a control technique that you can use on somebody. And both of those techniques, they're both techniques that I know. And since he did a great job, I'm not going to try to pirate the guy's stuff and say, look what I came up with. But I think the video is excellent. And it's going to give a lot of you guys something to believe in. Meaning, you're not going to hear what I'm saying about how really you shouldn't be grappling with anybody in a real fight if you can at all help it. Your ego is going to get the best of you. You're going to think, well, why did you, if you know I took judo back in the day, you're going to say, well, why did you take judo if you didn't want to? So I don't want to argue with you. I'm going to put that below. And I figure, if you stayed with me this long in the video, instead of past a minute 30, like most viewers, then you deserve something that I know you're going to believe in. And it doesn't negate what I said. What I'm saying is true. Remember, you shouldn't be grappling with people out there. You shouldn't be fighting in the first place. You should really be thinking about self-defense. Peace.